welcome you into another episode of Scrushy on Business. My name is Dave Green, joined by Richard Scrushy for another fantastic episode. We are really looking forward to talking with our guest today. Richard, how are you?
Man, I am doing great. Again, we had a great week. Last week, Lamont West, I watched the show again, Dave, and I was cracking up. I mean, he's not only a smart guy and he's done well in all that he's done, but he told us some things that really were kind of funny about how he got to where he's at today. But I really enjoyed it. But just to jump on where we are today, I want to thank everybody for jumping on the podcast. We've got a great guest, a gentleman who I was able to spend a little bit of time with last week, Cody Nicholson. And Cody, just want to welcome you to the show and thank you for coming on. You've got an incredible background. You've done a lot of things in your life at a young age, and we want to try and cram as much of that as we can into
Yeah.
this podcast today.
I appreciate that, Richard. And Dave, thank you also for having me on the show. It's good to be here. Yeah.
Why don't we start with kind of where you're from and how you got started? I mean, I know I know you went and got your MBA. You went to a great university, Rice University, right here in Houston, Texas. We're very proud of Rice University, and people come from all over the world to search that university out. So why don't you start there and kind of tell us your ideas? I mean, you're a true entrepreneur. You've built great business. I've been around you. You drive a very nice car, by the way. I didn't want to tell you that. So go ahead, just get started. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, born and raised here in Houston, Texas. Out of undergraduate, I was a mechanical engineer and very focused, kind of on the technical aspects of business and building products and working in manufacturing. And so, um, worked at a job for a few years and got a few patents, was pretty quickly moved into research and development where my patent work was recognized and there was a nice pay bump and a few other things. But what I realized after working there for a few years, getting in early, leaving late, I was there before the sun was up and I left after the sun had gone down. And I'm working in the lab. We're working with composite materials, doing some oil and gas tool development and design. A lot of really fun stuff. Working with Halliburton and a bunch of fun projects. However, after achieving what we thought were Herculean efforts from a technical perspective and really changing the way the manufacturing line was being done there, I really found out that all the profits and the winnings really went back to the business and the executive team, and the engineering team got a great pat on the back, and they were appreciative. But all that hard work, whether I'd worked 15-hour days or I worked 10-hour days, that really didn't affect my paycheck. And so I started to really think, at the young age in my mid 20s, just kind of looking at life, being like, man, I'm cracking it hard trying to make things happen here and move the needle. And I'm not seeing the return on my investment of time that I want to see. So my father he was a commercial real estate broker, and he'd had this wealthy family in Houston that kind of gave him a big check to go buy his first mobile home park back in the 2000s.
Mm.
And so he was kind of piddling around doing mobile home parks here and there, and he bought a couple of them. And I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I'm an engineer, obviously, and I'd like to maybe buy some mobile homes, not the actual parks, but just buy the houses." So I had a friend of mine that believed in me and wrote me a check, and I went and bought a group of mobile homes, and I started placing them in my father's parks. And my dad's a pretty hardcore guy. He didn't. I would have thought he would have given me some rent breaks or whatever else, but he's pretty by the book on it. But either way, we ended up doing pretty well on that deal and putting a bunch of houses together and building a fleet of homes. And we essentially were able to, my wife and I were able to save enough money and kind of get the housing platform up to a position where I could quit my job as an engineer and really focus on entrepreneurship for full time, for full time. And so that was really a big tipping point for me, was just to get my finances under control, get all my debt paid off, and then really run lean with that business so that all of my time was then focused on entrepreneurial efforts. And so from that point on in my 20s, I was involved in 10 or 20 startups, and 90% of those crashed and burned. That was fun, good experience. But then one day my father called me and he said, "Hey, look, I'd like to build a mobile home park and you're an engineer. Like, what do you think?" And I said, "Hey, let me take a look at it." So we cut a deal. We talked to another engineering firm about doing the work to design this park, and I forget what the price was, like $200,000 to do this engineering work. And I said, "Hey, look, give me a $200,000 credit on the limited partnership statement. I'll do the engineering work, and then I'd like to learn this business. So my dad, he said, sure, I think that works. Let's see if we can buy this land and build this park. And so we worked on that project together for 3 years as one of the entrepreneurial efforts that I made. And I found out that I was really enjoying that and having fun. And our efforts were fruitful. And so I kind of went back to him and I said, hey, I think it can make sense. Why don't we build a team of like 10 or 15 people? And I'll build some models out because in engineering school, all you do is build models.
Hmm.
And I said, I know this sounds weird, but like, why don't I build some models using my engineering brain and let's try to automate and systematize everything that you've done on these last few deals and see if we can't build a team and go buy a deal a month. And he said, oh man, that's crazy. I don't know if we can do that. But as fortune would have it, after a few years of, try and fail, try again, right? Reiteration, we got to a position where he and I were acquiring about a deal a month. And so we put together a really great team and we did about 250 million worth of acquisition in a short period of time.
Wow.
And so we built that platform up. And in 2018, I put my resignation in there and I said, hey, look, I appreciate it. It's been fun. I'm moving on to greener pastures. I'm gonna go start up a consulting practice and do some private equity work. I was fresh graduate out of Rice University, and I had the head of the entrepreneurship program there had agreed to kind of gently mentor me on my new venture of acquiring businesses. And so I went out to acquire my first business. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'd taken some classes in school, and I thought, how hard can it be? It was very hard. It was a good butt whooping, but I learned a lot. And, that turned into another 15, enterprise acquisitions. And so from that point on, we around 2022, we ended up liquidating our equity fund, our real estate equity fund. My father said, hey, would you come back for a year and help me wind this thing down? This thing's too big and I don't want to run it by myself. Let's sell it, wind it down, and maybe focus on a few smaller real estate projects. And I said, sure, let's do that. So we did that. We sold the platform. That took me 18 months. It was probably the largest transaction I've ever led. We sold it to a big group out of Denver, a big equity fund, and that was a really fun experience. But that kind of freed up a lot of. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, hold that right there. I don't want to miss something that you said that was critical early on, and then I want to come right back to that because we're talking about having equity here. You mentioned, when you were doing the engineering work and y'all were building everything, and these other guys had the equity in the company. You're doing
Right.
all the work. They're using your brain. There's so many people out there right now that are caught up in exactly that. Might not be in engineering, but it might be 100 other different companies. They're doing the work. The big guys at the top, they've got all the equity. They're taking the money out, and so these people see it. They're not stupid, just like you weren't. You said, "Hey, well, oh, wait a minute. I'm no dummy. I see what's going on here. I've got to get on the other side of this." So that's what you did, and you did it several times. And so now you've got equity in this. And here we go. We built this up. It's so
Right.
big. We're going to sell it, which is, there are a couple of ways that people liquidate. And they always ask you, how are you going to get out of this? I know we're going to build this company. Where are you going to take it? How are you going to get out of it? Well, here you are.
Right.
You're now at the point where you're going to liquefy this investment for you and your dad, and you've built it up and it's at a size that you really don't want to run it anymore. This happens, doesn't it?
Right.
So go ahead.
It
I just
got
want to
so
bring that
big.
up.
That's right. We were flying all over the country, acquiring properties, and we had management teams in different states, and it was fun. You know what I mean? But it gets exhausting, but in a good way, right? I mean, it's one thing to be exhausted from toil. There's a difference between, I would say, toil and work. Work is
Mhm.
healthy and it's productive, and work is the harder you work, the more money you make. Toil is bondage, and I don't want to over exaggerate or make things sound terrible because my employer was a great group of people. I wasn't abused or anything, but to me, toiling is when you're working all the time, but there's no long-term vision or purpose or great effort. And I think that's the burden that every entrepreneur has is they know in their heart they could do it better. Or even if it's equal, they can go do it themselves and produce their own value and poke the market, and the market will poke back at you, and you can move on it, and it's a lot of fun to
So
to
you
play in
think
that space.
so you think building it was fun.
No,
Building it is a hoot.
yeah, it's tremendous. It was tremendous to build is it's an addiction. Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
the juices are flowing and the adrenaline.
Yeah.
But then you get a point where you say, we built this thing and now it's so heavy to move it to the next level, and you got all of this stuff going on, and all of these people, and all these issues. I think we ought to just go on to get rid of it and
Well,
sell it to people that do that.
it was a combination of things. Richard, we had 157 LPs in our
Yeah,
fund,
there you go.
and that alone was becoming a full-time job to manage that. The market in 2022 in the real estate world was in a frothy frenzy, and we saw cap rates hit low positions that we had never seen in our lifetimes, and we thought, man, will we ever see this again? I don't know, but maybe we exit now and then we'll just buy it all back in 10 years when cap rates decompress back up. So it was a combination of things. We were tired of running such a big group. We had, a huge amount of investors that we kind of just wanted to give them back a nice return. Everybody would be happy and we could kind of all go on our merry way.
Yep.
And I think the market was kind of speaking to us in a nice way, just saying, hey, look, it's time. And so we exited.
Yeah.
A lot of partners are a little bit of pain in the butt too. I just have to say that.
Yes.
Each one is great, and we have great relationships with those people still today. But people are going to call you and just say, "Hey, I just want to know what the position is on our investments. What's your strategy? What's the thesis going forward? How do you see the market?" And when you have that conversation over 100 times in
Hmm.
a couple months, it just becomes a little bit of a burden.
Yeah.
Not on anyone specific. It's just the nature of managing a fund.
Another full-time job, as
Yeah,
you said
exactly.
before.
Yeah,
I want to
and
go.
then yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to go back to another important point that you made: trial and error. You
Yeah.
failed. You said you
Oh,
invested
many times.
in, a lot of startups.
Boy,
You
that's a
said
good
10 to
point.
20. Uh,
Oh man, we we
so
were I had $250,000 in a vaping business where we were putting vitamins and minerals into vape pens. And so, as an example, if if you were struggling to sleep, we had distilled the chemical that's in turkey. After you eat a big turkey dinner on
right.
Thanksgiving, you're tired because turkey has this natural chemical in it that makes you sleepy. Well, we had
Tryptophan. Yeah.
isolated that and very safely put it in a vape pen in a lab in California, and we had California stamp it. California is the hardest place to get anyone to say this is healthy and safe. So we thought if we could get it done there and sell it to the U.S. market, people would buy it. So I had manufacturing set up in China. I had a Californian laboratory receiving from the boat off China and making sure it was safe and clean. And my wife is supporting me. She's like, "This is so cool, marketing material." I had everything. I had the engine running. And then all of a sudden, Ivanka Trump comes out with her war on vaping because of this popcorn scare, because of a lot of the nicotine issues that they were having with vaping, killed our business. I mean, overnight, the policy risk just crushed us and collapsed us. We had to close our doors in a matter of weeks.
Hmm.
It's just one of those things, that a war story that you never forget. And I just had never even conceived of the idea that, the first lady would be able to step out there and make a statement and destroy a business overnight. And I don't think she was meaning anything malicious or anything at all. I think,
Just
there
happened.
were some legitimate concerns with the vaping business, and I thought we had, curtailed those pretty well. But the point was, sometimes there are things that are going to hit you that you're not going to see. And as an entrepreneur, getting hit and beat down and getting bloodied, it's just part of it. And if you're experiencing that right now at home or at the office, then be encouraged, brother, because welcome to the club.
Mm,
Build character.
amen.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, so from there, where do we go?
Well, so from there, our private equity business really we're just a small boutique shop, right? Buying small transactions with earnings between 250K and maybe a million, 2 million in earnings. And so we're buying small businesses, learning how to run them, figuring out the mechanics of putting together a management team, an operating agreement, and putting a board together, and kind of balancing all of those powers of government so that everyone feels like their interests are aligned and that governance is fair and that there's, not too much red tape. We don't want bureaucracy to slow down our ability to be nimble as a business. So many things to learn. But going through that process, I ended up meeting one of an old client of mine here in Houston. There's a group called the Cannon, and I believe they have about 12 locations, and they're an incubator startup space. So if you're a startup and you're looking for funding, or you just want to be around other entrepreneurs that are in that same grit, in that same stage of life, what we call booster stage, you join the Cannon. And the Cannon has a lower rent. They've got sponsors and capital providers that are all there in that ecosystem. And when you walk into that, you're kind of in a space where the sky's the limit on who you can meet, and who's available and interested in what you're doing. And so the guy that founded that is my business partner. His name's Lawson. And so Lawson left the Canon some years ago around COVID, and he was working on another project. And he called me. He said, "Hey, I've got a business I want to start, and I was wondering if your fractional services business could do the back end on it." And we looked at it together and spent some time. And as we went through that process, we determined, why don't we just partner up full time, and why don't we take the idea of the Canon and take the private equity business and put together a hybrid that we don't think anyone's done before in Texas, really anywhere in Texas, to my knowledge. And what that looks like is, how do we provide a space for post-revenue businesses and some startup to come into a space, get that same Canon-like reduced rent, but then also have access to, elite Rice MBA fractional services based platforms that can support the entrepreneur as they go through the rugged, terrible process of getting their business to the next level, right? So if a business is in adolescence and it's looking to get into, post-maturity stage, how does it get there? And so having a CFO or a strategy person that can help you think through those ideas. How much capital do you need? How much working capital cushion do you need? Do you need that rainy day fund?
On.
What does it look like to set those milestones based on your trajectory and the goals you have?
So
And I
they're
think,
they're
yeah,
literally leveraging off of those relationships that you have put in place. And
correct. And so we, our business, Helium Capital, we have a subgroup of it called Helium Solutions, and so we have clients in all kinds in states like California, Texas, wherever else, that we provide these services to help them, professionally. We call it unburdening the entrepreneur. So as an example, we see entrepreneurs as coming in two buckets. An entrepreneur is typically a fantastic sales guy, or he's a fantastic technical person, either manufacturing, coding, maybe it's computer, maybe it's engineering based, or you've got a guy that's an incredible sales and marketing person. And so they're in their strength when they're there. And the last thing they want to do is be burdened by payroll, taxes, entering QuickBooks. And so we come to them and we say, look, based on where you want to go, you're going to have to hire a full-time person to meet these roles for a fraction of that person's salary, less, medical expense and all the things that come with hiring a person. We're going to do it for, a fraction of that price, but we're going to be able to put you in a position where you've got professional services that are going to help support you. Think about it, Dave, Richard, think about it like a thoroughbred horse running on a racetrack. You don't want to have weights, a weight belt around your horse. You want to unfetter that horse and pull the weights off so that it's running with the lightest jockey that you can find, right? And so we kind of think about these entrepreneurs. We want to see them in the highest and best use, and unfettered as they run forward, because people want to work in their strength. What's your highest and best use as a person, right? And I think an entrepreneur is good at finding that and understanding the limit and the maximum capability of their potential. And so we try to think through that with them and put them in that zone and move all the other things out of the way.
do you find yourself I walked around the office that you took me to, and I saw all of those, you have all those people, all those entrepreneurs in there with offices. Do you find yourself working with them and helping them discern between creativity and execution? Because a lot of times we see, great ideas, but they don't have the ability to execute. Are their ideas not quite there, but they've got great, strength in terms of being able to execute? So I'm just wondering, do you find yourself in any coaching and counseling as you're there, as kind of leading the group? Do they come to you with those kinds of questions, and do you find yourself in conversations with some of the entrepreneurs that are actually officing there
All the time.
all the time?
Someone will come to us. Let me give you an example. A marketing company will come to us and say, "Hey, listen, we're very interested in raising capital, hiring these two key people, and then attacking this specific area of the market that we want." And we'll look at it and we'll say, fantastic. Let's figure out what that's going to cost to do that. What are the sources and uses of capital, and what are you willing to do? Do you want to go private credit? Do you want to raise the money? How much your company are you willing to give away? How are you going to value it? All those questions. And they're actually pretty simple to figure out if we sit down and do it together, through a mathematical process. However, the thing that we want and help entrepreneurs think through is, let's break down where you want to go and where you are today and let's put a 10-step process to get there because your vision is incredible, but you're on step 6 and your vision where you're talking about going today is step 14. And so we need to figure out what those steps are between that, make sure that we have the cash flow to get there. And then when it's appropriate, then we raise the money, right? We don't want to raise the money at the wrong cycle or time frame of where you are in your business. Otherwise, you're going to overpay for that money, right? If I go into if I go into a VC's office and I say, "Hey, look, man, I need $1 million. I got this great idea," and he says, "Great, what's the idea?" And I explain the idea, and he says, "Well, have you designed the software yet? Do you have a team?" And I'm like, "I hadn't gotten there yet." Then he's gonna be have some pause, and he's thinking this is a higher risk. Whereas if we go into that VC office and we say, "Hey, look, we've got a minimum viable product. It shows you exactly what we're trying to do. We've got the team built out. We just need to raise $1 million to get it to the next stage." That's something that's a little bit more tangible and people can see. And so articulating that in a deck or some kind of, investment memorandum or whatever else, I think is where we can put that polish for an entrepreneur that maybe their skills are sales or their technical capabilities, and we can kind of help slow them down for a minute, think through those ideas and get them into the right position to go raise that money effectively.
I spend a lot of time telling entrepreneurs when they bring me ideas, I say, what are your milestones to get to over here? This is where you want to be in a year,
Right.
2 years. What are the milestones? Because the way I look at it, and certainly I want you to respond to this, Cody, but you raise money. I mean, the milestones are going to determine your dilution, and the dilution here is very, very
Right.
important early on. So, the further you get, you raise a little bit of money when you don't have much going on. But then as you begin to really hit it, and you're achieving those milestones, just like you said, and you've got something to show the investor, whether it's venture capital or some other angel or whatever it is. The bottom line is, you don't, like you said, you don't want to overraise the money early on because you're going to take great dilution. You're going to give your company away. You might not even be able to raise it. But if you have those steps, and if the investor can understand that those steps are achievable, he's more likely to put money in the deal.
That's right. And he'll feel more comfortable taking a smaller position
Right.
because he
There you go.
perceives more value.
That's it.
Another thing, Richard, that we like to think through as a firm, when we talk to the entrepreneur, they're so used to being, what's the word, looked at by VCs who are trying to get as much as they can.
Hmm.
We're kind of coming from the perspective of we represent you, the entrepreneur. What are your goals? So, as an example, we had a guy that was a minority partner at a private credit fund, and he said, I need to raise money and buy out my partners, and I want to have full control of this fund. And I said, well, that's going to be expensive. And I don't know if there's enough room on the cap table for you to do that. I just don't think that's going to make sense for you based on the risk and where you are personally and where the business is in its cycle. I said, what if we went to a private credit fund and we purchased out the partners with private credit? And then we got really, creative on the way that the bank's bank tape collateral was sitting on their books. I said, there's some bank tape here that we might be able to use to get a private credit fund more comfortable with making these loans against the partnership. And so we were able to put together a private credit fund to buy out the partners, and now he's retained 100% ownership of the business. You know what I mean? There's just creative ways where, over the next 18 months, he's going to pay off this line of credit and he's going to own the entire company outright. And if he wants to go out and sell a piece of it later down the road, he has that ability to do that. And that's a powerful thing. And we take a lot of pride here at Helium being able to come up with those solutions and help people think through what's the maximum effective way to get where you want to go without giving too much away.
Hey, if someone's listening today that is interested in getting into one of the incubators, you want to share some information with them about where they might go?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. So our incubator in Houston, it's downtown, is called Boomsling Labs. Um, Boomsling Labs is really a mix and morph of taking Lawson's idea of the canon that I had spoken about earlier, and then taking a private equity component, and then also bolting a third component, which is the fractional services piece, and melding all that together. And the Boomsling Lab is a place where entrepreneurs can come in, they can get desk space. We usually offer a week or two for free to them, just so they can come and sit in and kind of meet the community, see if it's a good fit, see if the services and whatever else could work. So let me give you an example. There's a group called Greentown Labs. Greentown Labs is, I think, the largest green tech venture capital group in the world. And they've got two offices. Their main headquarters are in Boston, but they're second, and I think maybe equal size group is here in Houston. And Boomsling Labs is helping the Greentown group rethink the way that they're reaching the community in Houston. And so effectively, Boomsling Labs is powering the Greentown focus right now as they look to rebuild their platform. And so what we're doing over there is we are taking the Greentown Labs platform and we've cut out a little cubby space in the corner and we've put a Helium Labs piece there so that the entrepreneurs that are doing green tech in this example can come over for, we call them beer coupons. They can come in, take a coupon and sit down for an hour for free, and get a quick diagnosis, just like a doctor would come in and say, hey, I'll give you a free checkup for an hour just to see what's going on. And we'll look at their balance sheet, we'll figure out what their goals are and help them think through what that is. And if they say, hey, I'd really like to move to the next step, then we take them on and we help them at a special rate to the group in our labs. And we help them as they go through that process to meet their goals. And so the lab is in Greentown. It's called Helium Labs, and it's built there specifically to help the startups and post-revenue businesses that are focused on green tech. And so we also have that at the downtown location, where if they're in the Boomsling Labs, they have the option to come to the private equity side of the office and get free consultation. And a lot of them come in and hire us to help them think through, oh man, I need a line of credit to help my business grow. Or, is it appropriate right now for us to raise outside capital and jump to the next level? Like when is that, when is that the most effective, right? And so, we're helping groups think through that at different levels. And I use Greentown as an example. I know that not everyone on the show is going to have a green focus and whatever else, but Boomsling is a catch-all for all entrepreneurs of all places that are interested in this type of, community and, support. So I hope that kind of answered the question there, Richard.
Yeah, it
We're,
does.
we're really trying. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, are there triggers that every now and then you see something and you go, oh my gosh, oh this is smoking hot. I need to be involved in this.
Yeah.
I need to put money in this deal. Do you see those? I mean, how often is that?
Well, one of the benefits of the lab is that the deal flow is incredible inside the lab, right? So we have all these excellent entrepreneurs that are all looking to raise money. And so we'll ask them, we'll say, hey, after, going through that process and helping them put together a plan, we'll ask them, hey, would it be okay and appropriate for us to maybe put some money in as a firm? And so they always have the option through Helium Capital to hire us as a group to come in and they could say, hey, look, I need to raise $2 million. This is kind of the way that I need the raise to look. Helium can participate, but also we would make introductions and or invest ourselves to help them think through and raise the money for whatever project they're looking to do. So
So,
to answer
so
your question, yes.
So you and I would imagine too, just to go ahead and add to that, that you are connected. I mean, you have the relationships with funds that are,
Yes.
with some that may look for biotech, others might look for something else, and so healthcare or whatever it might be. You've got the funds to take them to. You've got relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, being in private equity space myself and in the equity funds, our network is huge. Lawson, managing the Canon for all those years and starting it and having 12 locations with like 2,500 companies and Chevron and Exxon and all these big groups that are investing in oil and gas out on the West Campus and then, on the Central Campus having tech. So there's a lot of relationships that come with the Helium ecosystem and the Boomsling Lab ecosystem that people are paying us for our network. They're saying, hey, look, I don't just need an investor. I need someone that can invest in my business and help me open the doors. If they've got a product that needs to be exported, then maybe we introduce them to a family that's got ties to the ship channel, something of that nature, right? We want to make sure that it's an accretive relationship that family, whoever's investing in that, is excited about it because they understand the space and they think they can help the business grow.
Well, I'll tell you, that's that, Dave. I love that. I mean, I, I mean, I'm so glad that we're having you on this podcast, and that and I'm sure there are people. Of course, we have people that watch this from I mean, California all the way to Georgia and Florida and up north. But and I don't know, do you reach outside of Texas because we do have a pretty broad listening base?
We do. I've got clients in California, as you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a lot of remote work, so they may get fractional assistance just through Zoom or through Google Meet or whatever else. That's
Mhm.
Beauty of it today.
sheets a sheet. A P&L is a P&L. And sometimes the client does fly in, especially when we're making capital introductions.
Hmm.
Whenever that's appropriate, they do come in. Or I think last month, one of our associates flew out to California and went to a conference and trade show with one of our clients to be, to assist and to be kind of the technical mouthpiece of the finance mouthpiece as he went around and met with different investors. Yeah, absolutely.
I went into your office and you've got conference space, you got boardroom space. So, and I would think that officing there amongst all of the energy there is much better than sitting out somewhere on your own. You've got people to interact with. You can have coffee in the morning. You've got a, like I said, a very nice place to bring in potential clients, potential board members, investors. And I think it shows well. I mean, it just shows really well, for somebody that's trying to get started and trying to get traction and trying to build their business. Now, the question would be, and how long do you see someone? I mean, as their company grows to a point, they're obviously going to have to move out and have more space and hire more people.
That's right. So we see ourselves as kind of a launching pad, which is why we named the laboratory the Boom Sling. It's just kind of got an actiony sound to it, like a slingshot and a boom. We want people to think like, come here, get charged up, go off, and then go do your thing in the world. And the idea is not for them to live in the lab forever, but to use the lab as a place to experiment and get sharp and become effective and understand their purpose and their goals and their direction, and then to be empowered to go out and do that.
Where do
So
you see, I was going to say, where do you see the need the most? The questions that you get, the what businesses come in and don't seem to have a great grasp on that you tend to spend a lot of time on.
well, for us, we look at all businesses as very similar. You're going to have payroll, administrative burden, taxes, you're tracking your expenses. You may have inventory management. You may need CRM management. There's a lot of things that a business is going to need. And so luckily, the thing that we're really good at is useful in every type of business. Whether you're managing a restaurant, one of our clients is a bar restaurant. We've got clients that are soft, SaaS businesses that are, we've got clients that are measuring metals and waters. They travel through pipes in the oil field. We're acquiring gas compression businesses. We've got businesses that do coatings on wastewater treatment facilities. I mean, it's an entire gambit of things. But what I realize is that people are doing their business and they're really good at a few things that make them successful. And what I find is that we're kind of like this helpful friend that just asks questions, draws information out. And a lot of times, just by asking those questions and putting them on paper, the entrepreneur knows the answer right there. It's staring at you right in the face. And we just
Right.
kind of help them think through that with clarity and with step-by-step process. And then once they see it and they have buy-in, then they make that behavioral change. And then they start to see their organization change in a positive way.
I would imagine there's a good bit of collaboration amongst your people that are in your offices there, because they just talk and they see each other and they have coffee together and they probably go out and have a cold beer together.
That's right.
You see a good bit of that?
Absolutely. We have a commercial insurance business here, and other clients use the commercial insurance business. But then we also have a headhunting agency that's one of the clients in the lab. And so
Hmm.
one of the headhunting agencies hired a CEO for the insurance business, and then there's a software developer that has an entire back office in India, and he's offering services, to help people get their software support up, and he's doing that in exchange for lowered fees, in exchange for equity. So there's like, private deals between companies happening in the lab. That's kind of just a natural byproduct of being in the ecosystem. So it's helpful, right? Because as you know, I mean, if you're in the manufacturing space and you're like, well, what kind of insurance do I need to make sure that my employees are safe? You just walk across the hall and talk to the insurance specialist. That's all they do, right? And so that you're all on the journey together, but you can help each other and do business with each other, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
and I've got to believe that saves money, it saves time,
Yeah.
it's
You
productive
get to
because
know that
you're
you're doing good business with somebody because the community keeps you accountable. You know,
yep.
we modeled a portion of this off of some of the work we do at Rice University. I co-instruct a class called Enterprise Acquisition at Rice, and the lab there, a lot of the students take the course and they think, oh, I want to learn about acquiring a business, and maybe they have a full-time job at ExxonMobil. But by the time they go through the lab, they've identified a business, are thinking about actually pulling a trigger on buying it, and end up raising money in the class and acquiring the business, leaving their job at ExxonMobil, and then starting their journey of entrepreneurship all through just taking a course at Rice. I mean, it is an incredible thing. And I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful to watch these people see their lives changed. I mean, their lives are changed. And then to have a place to land after that in the Boomsling Lab or wherever else in the city that could support them, the Ion, right? We do work with the Ion, we do work with, Rice everywhere. To have that network and that community of other people that are going through that with you, right?
Hmm.
Is a powerful thing. You want to be surrounded by other people that understand your struggles. It's
Exactly.
helpful to be, when you're managing a business, it can be a very lonely place. A lot of entrepreneurs tell me that. They say, man, this is a lonely place at the top.
Yep.
And the top's not as everything it's cracked up to be. Making payroll sometimes is burdensome. You lose a lot of sleep.
What are a couple of your favorite companies that you've launched there that you maybe have even invested in? Can you share that with us? Maybe share a couple of them with us that you really are excited about.
Yeah. Well, we're closing on a transaction in October. I can't tell you the name of the business under NDA, but it's a gas compression business. And it's a group of young guys that got together out in the oil field and started servicing gas compression equipment as gas gets compressed and pushed along the line down, to different states. That liquid natural gas has to be compressed, and they started a services business. And these three young guys took this business from a maintenance program up to a 10 million top line revenue business.
Mm.
And so, we thought, man, this is an incredible business. We want to be a part of it. So we went to a very large German gas compression manufacturer, and we grabbed the head of their program to come run this business.
Well,
And so one of the things that we think is so important is finding the right people and putting them in the right position for success. And I'm very excited about that. And this this guy is going to be jumping from corporate to managing a lot of people, and he's going to be having the entire Helium support team behind him to make sure that he doesn't have to worry about making payroll. He doesn't have to worry about his taxes. I mean, he's got all that covered. He's got a team of people. And what's even more beautiful than that is the guys that are exiting that business have come to Helium and they said, "Hey, look, we're getting this big check. It's a beautiful day for us. We never thought we'd do this in our 30s. What's next?" And so we're helping make introductions to CPAs, to attorneys to help them think through estate planning and building a trust for their family and their kids. How do you most tax effectively move that money from that sale into another instrument? And then, how do you set yourself up long term with some cash flow now that you don't have a business, right? Now you're sitting on a pile of cash. What do you do with it? So we're making introductions to private credit funds to help them kind of think through how to generate cash flow that's going to beat, traditional market, treasuries and whatnot. And we're kind of teaching them another world. I mean, these guys are getting their hands dirty working on gas compression. They don't understand mortgage-backed securities or, what the markets are doing and what the risks are. And so we're helping them think through that as well. And it's kind of a full white glove concierge service all the way through the whole process for both sides. It's really cool. I'm excited about it.
You must get a lot of personal satisfaction too out of what you do in your company to be able to, again, in some cases, these people obviously you purchase and make their dreams come true. But these young companies that are getting the boost, right? Because
Yes.
so many people can get to a certain point, but you can't do it all. And sometimes most of the time, I should say, you need significant help, but that help can be very, very expensive if you're not careful. So it seems like a very good way to do it for the entrepreneur.
Well, and I think also people think a CPA is a CPA or an engineer is an engineer,
Yeah.
or an attorney is an attorney. But an engineer, you don't hire an electrical engineer to build a bridge, and you don't hire a civil engineer to work on a software program. You need a software engineer, right? So engineers come in different flavors, and just like an attorney, you don't want to hire an attorney that focuses in family law and divorce law to help you litigate some kind of corporate fiasco where there's different classes of stock and you've got the SEC involved, and this family attorney is not going to know what the heck's going on. So we help a lot of people think through what professional services do, and then inside of each professional service, all the different layers and different styles and different people that are available and what to avoid. a lot of people want to hire an attorney because it's their friend from school and he's a family attorney, but they're trying to get IP work done and he's learning IP work and making every mistake in the book. Whereas if you'd have just hired an IP attorney and paid the premium, he would have done it quicker and better, right? It's those little lessons that hurt and we try to help guys and girls avoid.
And y'all have got the experience to do that. You've all these other companies, so you kind of strap. It's kind of like injecting steroids or strapping on a turbo to make it move quicker and easier and faster and less complicated.
That's
So
right. And the other thing too, Richard, that a lot of people don't think through is, oh, I'm buying this business, but the business comes with a warehouse and it comes with a tract of land. How do you value that in your balance sheet? What does that look like? Well, luckily, we've managed real estate equity funds, so we can come through and help them think through what's the real estate piece look like? What does the enterprise acquisition and valuation process look like? And then how do those two things compare? And then how do you connect them together so that they're the most tax efficient,
have
right? I
you
mean, if
have
you
you
think
done
about
much on
that.
the have you done much on the divestiture side where you've actually helped people get rid of stuff that they didn't need or sell a company even?
We have a public relations firm right now that's hired us to sell it.
Okay.
What we've done is we've packaged it up, we've cleaned up the financials, we've put together, a little deck, little expose on the business and what it's done and who its customers are and where we think the risks are and how we valued the business. And we shopped it around and we've got a buyer right now and we're going through that process. So absolutely, absolutely, Richard.
So you've got the staff there. I
Mhm.
met your CFO, I guess, the other day. Is
Yes.
he the CFO over the whole operation for you?
He is. He
Yeah.
CFOs the entire firm, and then he's also the head of the fractional services business.
Oh,
He's a 11 or 12-year Deloitte guy. I mean, he's managed teams on every continent, and then he managed, I think, all of accounting in their cyber program at Baker Hughes for
hmm.
5 or 6 years. His
Wow.
experience is deep, and so
I would
he's
say
got
so.
he's got the consulting touch, and then he's also got big corporate touch, and then now he's focused on these small businesses and applying a lot of great standard operating procedures and practices to kind of help people think through what is your business going to look like in 5 years as it grows. You may not need a lot of these big machinery parts now, but let's design it right now with the end in mind so that at some point in the future, when you decide to sell, someone who's maybe in a private equity position can look at that and see the value that you've done by slowing down and building this thing right from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to say this because I've been around for many years building businesses, have invested in a lot of businesses, built a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
And the thing that you're adding is, and I'm just saying that I want our listeners to understand this, with the sophistication that you have and with the all of the things that you've done. So one of the big problems, Cody, and you know this, is that when you're out on your own out here in the boondocks and you're creating a company, you take shortcuts. You don't, maybe your website's not very nice. Maybe you didn't have the right lawyer and he didn't do a real good job on setting you up. And might have put you in an LLC when you should have been in a C corp. Or you may have
See it all the time.
but everything, around just may not be up to where it could be. So when somebody gets into a situation like the Boom Slayer, where you are, and you've got all of that influence, and somebody you can look at and talk to and say, "What do you think about this?" I mean, I guarantee you that you walk around that place, that offices, and you give people free advice all the time.
Mhm.
But them seeing all these other companies and how they're doing things, they're going to do a better job. It's going to look better. They're going to hire the right lawyer. They're going to have the right accountant. They're going to have the right graphics guy. They're going to have a better website. They're going to put their sales material together. It's going to be more professional and on and on and on, so that you're not just giving them a place to rent and providing them some fractional services. You actually are influencing the entire look of the company, the feel of the
That's
company,
right.
and really moving it to a whole nother level just because they're in that environment. Am I right?
Yes, iron sharpens iron is what we say. And you know, we're not in the world of taking a business that's, bootstrapping it and putting them with some huge professional marketing company that's going to charge them $20,000 to build a website, right? We have found guys that do excellent work and they're fair on their pricing and they're not nickeling and diming you and they're going to come together because they're used to working with this type of client, the entrepreneur who doesn't have $30,000 to build a website. Maybe they just need a landing page. Maybe they need to build out. We had one group that wanted to build out an entire back suite office so that they could have people order through the website. depending on what it is, right, it's going to change the cost. But having access to those people that are doing it over and over and over for other clients, and you can go and talk to other people that have their website built by this person and say, I
Mhm.
had a great experience, or watch out for these things because he'll ask you if you want your logo, but then that's an extra $500. Be careful. You don't maybe design your own logo with AI. Then you can have those conversations and figure out what's best for you. But that's all here in the lab, and that's all these things are moving together. And we have, especially with our partnerships with Rice. I mean, I personally chair the Rice Real Estate Roundtable. So all the roundtable programs are hosted in the Boomsling Lab, the Enterprise Acquisition Lab at Rice. Those students come into the lab and they just want to get reps. They're like, Cody, what deals are you working on? And so they'll just come in and provide analyst work because they want to get a few reps on a deal before they go buy their own. You know,
Yep.
just little things that we offer as a firm to kind of help people get comfortable before they go into the battle themselves and pull that trigger and
Right.
spend real dollars and put their life on the line and take the big risk. Because when you're an entrepreneur or thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, the fear is always, well, what if I fail? You know? And there's the piece of knowing you will fail, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to fail. We all will fail, and you will fail too, but we're going to do it again and figure it out. And we're going to figure it out together. And entrepreneurship is about a journey of going up and down until you get to a position where you can hockey stick out. It's
Hey,
just a natural
absolutely.
progression.
So how I got to ask you the fun question. Have
Yeah.
you ever told somebody that came in and was pitching, that is a dumb idea. That is stupid. I would not put my money in that. Don't waste your time. That's not going to work. Have you ever told somebody, I don't think you
We're,
could do
we do a little bit, we're a little bit more gentle. Uh, we're a little bit more gentle, but we do have people that will come in. We have a process where, if someone wants to come in and pitch an idea, we don't really do a lot of venture capital work. It's very rare. Most of the work that we do, we've got a company that comes in, they're post revenue. And they may be doing a couple 100,000 a year in post revenue, and they may want a position in the lab. And we'll kind of help them think through how do you get to a million, right? But sometimes we sit down with people and we have to tell them the hard thing, which is that's not going to work for these reasons. And what they don't know deep down, Richard, Dave, and I'm sure you guys know this very well, we're constantly interviewing people. They don't know it though. I
Right.
have to find out if someone's coachable and teachable.
There you
I
go.
can't get a
Yeah.
guy or a girl in the office that's got a great business and a great idea, but they're so convinced that they know what to do and what the next steps are that they can't hear. When an entrepreneur has lost his ability or her ability to hear and listen, they're on a course for disaster and they just can't see it. And we see it all the time.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I
When you
bet.
find somebody that's teachable, or at least willing to listen, really listen, that's someone you put your money with.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Two ears and one mouth, right?
That's right. I mean, through many advisors, right? War is won.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Cody, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
We are absolutely going to have you back on the show. Tremendous information, just hearing your background, but also what you guys do now, and that is out there for people and entrepreneurs who can look into.
Yep.
Because as someone who has attempted before to do it on his own and thinking, nah, I'll figure this out, it takes too much time. It's not worth it to do it. As you said, sometimes it's worth it just to pay the price, get it done quick, and get it done right. So
Well, we
fabulous
like to
discussion.
think. I thank you, Dave. I appreciate you saying that. But last thing I'll say is, I have compassion on people that are going through this burden of entrepreneurship. It's a journey and it's a lonely road. And I want Helium and Boomsling and all these other programs that we're working with to be a beacon of light for people to come in and get encouraged and get out of the rain and just kind of have a cup of coffee with someone that understands. It doesn't always have to be talking finance and high level math and banking and all this other big fancy words. Sometimes it's just hanging out with people. Sometimes in the lab, we put beers out there and the guys just sit around and drink beer. Girls and guys sit around, drink beer and champagne and just kind of talk through struggles and just kind of, befriend and just kind of it's cathartic to share struggles with someone else who's in the burden of leadership and
So,
and have that
so
that's invaluable.
someone that's listening to this that wants to know, okay, how do I get involved? How do I come to your place? So if I'm looking for space and I've got an idea and I've got a small company, but I need what you're talking about that you offer, how do they go about doing that?
Um,
Go to
well,
your website or, I
yeah,
mean,
we do. Our website is heliumcap.com, and you can connect into the Boomsling Labs. It has its own website as well. I think it's boomslinglabs.com. I don't remember. And so through that, you can apply. But the other option is people are always welcome to just walk into the lab. I mean, it's a community of people. So you can walk in and talk to Olivia. Olivia kind of manages a lot of the community affairs. She's back and forth right now between the Greentown Labs platform and Boomsling in downtown. So connecting with Olivia, I think it's Olivia at heliumcap.com. Um, I Olivia is kind of the person that does a lot of the community work. So anyone that's looking for space, we've got different range, right? Some guys will want to have an entire office spot with, desks and cubicles. Other people just want a hot
use
desk. They're like,
space.
hey,
Yeah.
I just want a hot desk. Or we even had some people that we have a program where they pay like 20 or 30 bucks a month. They get a place for their mail to come in and they don't have a desk, but they've got a spot where they can host meetings and bring clients and rent out some of the space temporarily at certain times of the day to look professional and have a space to bring clients back to.
so,
So
so,
there's a whole gamut.
so if you have two employees, let's just say it's you and two, and you're starting them, you've got cubicles that you could put the other
Yeah.
two in.
Or open desks.
Yeah.
We've got a we've got a small private equity fund that's in boost stage right now, and they've got three guys, and they're operating out of one office that they've rented.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now,
And then we have another larger company, Build Force, and I think they rent like 7 to 10 desks. So they've got an
oh,
entire sector of the back corner of our space. They're a great group as well. I encourage you guys to look them up.
so it's helium cap, helium like the
Yeah,
gas,
we're
and
Helium
then
Capital. Yeah, so
CAP.
heliumcap.com.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
heliumcap.com. We thank you so much, Cody, for being a part of the show. If folks have questions you want to get to Richard, info at scrushyonbusiness.com is the website. If you're watching us on YouTube, we ask that you like this video and subscribe to the page, hit that bell, and you'll get notified when new content comes out, like having an interview with Cody. But info at scrushyonbusiness.com is the address. And again, Cody, we thank you so much for joining us. We always
Pleasure.
give the last word to Richard.
Hey, Cody, I'm going to call you. And thanks, by the way. You did a great job. It really appreciate you being on today. And I'm going to give you a call in a couple of weeks. We're going to go to that really good chicken place you took me to.
Oh yeah.
We're
Tumble
gonna,
22. I'll see you there.
I'm gonna get the hotter chicken
Yeah.
next time. Okay. All right.
Done.
Thanks again. And, God bless and all that you're doing. And we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Y'all have a great day.
You do
Okay.
the same.
Cheers.
And we will be back next week with another edition of Scrushy on Business. Thank you for tuning in.